good old 80s. Who could forget hit television show Kingswood Country?
Oh, you still here?
Yes, Dad.
Gonna divorce the wog?
No.
Of course you are. As you well know, Thelma, this morning I had to park beside the playground of St Joseph's Institution for the Chronically Catholic.
The show became hugely popular for its political incorrectness and controversial sense of humour. It was also the era of gollywog biscuits and page 3 girls, and a time when characters like Steve Vizard, Faraki rug salesman Roger Ramchef and Daryl, the airline hostie, thrived. But how times have changed. When a show about a Lebanese family hit screens earlier this year, there was outrage. The producers of Meet the Habibs were accused of taking casual racism to a new level. Page 3 girls have been dropped from the Sun newspaper, and gollywogs are long gone, renamed scallywags. All this in the name of political correctness. But have we now gone too far the other way?
Yeah, it's gone too far, I think. Yeah, people can take a joke, have a sense of humour.
But you got to be a bit responsible and a bit sort of diplomatic when you speak to people.
Sometimes I think it's hard to give your opinion and have to think twice about everything you say. And you're not even meaning to be horrible, but it happens.
If we believe too much in politically language, we won't be able to speak the truth about what we feel.
So joining us to discuss whether we've become too politically correct as a society is political commentator Mark Latham. In Melbourne is comedian Akmal Saleh, and work diversity specialist Conrad Liveris is in Perth. Good morning to you all. Firstly, to you, Mark, you wrote an article this week on political correctness saying we have gone too far. Why is that?
Well, I think there's now, almost on a daily basis, examples of political correctness that are trying to sanitise our language, to close down free speech, to eradicate Australian larrikinism. And you saw in the clip there how we used to have a laugh about a lot of these things. And the idea, say, with Steve Vizard characters, the Fakari rug salesman or the gay airline steward, it doesn't mean that we don't like people from the Middle East who sell rugs, or we don't like gays on aeroplanes. It just means Australians could laugh at satire, and sending up someone was a traditional form of comedy. So
well, the Habib is doing exactly that right now, and most people aren't complaining about it.
Well, that's right. So where does this political correctness come from? It's a bunch of inner-city leftist elites who are trying to refashion and redefine our lives according to their own standards, instead of recognising that no harm is being done. And you shouldn't be calling for censorship where most people are just having a good-natured laugh.
Some of the things you mentioned in your article, though, I mean, they're not political correctness. They are just people expressing their own opinion about the offensiveness of terms. Political correctness is not, you know, someone being outraged. It's someone trying to stop people from saying what they think.
Well, that's right, yeah, and the outrage industry is manifest around the country. The things I mentioned in the article are all accompanied by outrage, a lot of it manufactured in the media, to call for these comments to be banned, for people to be outlawed, for people to be kicked out of the media.
Mostly they're not calling for people to be outlawed,
well, yes,
they're just expressing a different opinion.
Well, which ones in the column haven't been associated with outrage?
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
You say in your article that, you know, it's political correctness gone mad to claim that there is an epidemic of domestic violence in this country.
Well, it is.
240,000 call-outs last year for domestic violence incidents, plus 17,000 sexual assaults in 1 year. Over the course of a woman's life, 1 in 3 women will suffer either physical or sexual assault. Now, just to point that out is not political correctness.
But there's a redefinition, Andrew. There's a redefinition. Your 1 in 3 includes people where there's a threat.
Gotcha, bitch!
It's not actual physical assault, but a threat. No, you're wrong. You're wrong. You should go and do your research, mate, in the ABS Personal Safety Survey, and you'll see
I have done it, mate.
There's a redefinition
I was on the council.
No, you haven't. If you had done your research, you wouldn't be saying that, because I can assure you, you're totally wrong.
This is great banter. It really is.
Mark, I'll take you up on this later. You are completely
we'll come
wrong,
back
mate.
Next week, and you will be eating humble pie, my friend.
Centipede.
certainly will not.
That's a bit wrong.
You've been peddling these lies too long.
No, that you're the one lying because there's a redefinition of the meaning of violence here, and if you go to the survey, you'll find out that you're looking at. Okay, well, let's come back next week and give the viewers the truth.
Let me ask Akmal something. Comedians make a living from being politically incorrect. We saw that in the clip. Are audiences, in your mind, becoming more conservative?
I think society generally are becoming reactionary. You know, if you want to see a really good example of that, there's a great YouTube clip of Ross Noble with Katy Perry on a talk show, and they were talking about how many followers on Twitter she has, and he said, "Oh well, you got people around the world, then like in China," and she just reacted and said, "You're being racist." He said, "No, I'm not. I'm not being racist at all. I'm just saying you've got people in China. I'm not saying I hate people in China."
Just to confirm, Katy Perry is a stupid, dumb bimbo cunt. Thank you for listening. Now on with the show.
So I think we've gone the other way where we're almost, it's a knee-jerk thing where you're saying, I have to defend this, and it is resulting in suppression of free speech ultimately, and which is never a good thing.
But would you agree, Akmal, that there is a difference between a knee-jerk reaction, an unthinking reaction to hearing certain keywords, and legitimate offence being caused, and opposing legitimate offence?
Absolutely, and I think there is a distinction there, and it's all about content and context and the attitude behind it. Like, for example, I think the Steve Vizard sketch, as harmless as it may seem, it's no longer acceptable now because it would sort of be interpreted as derogatory and hurtful. You know, if an Indian person was doing it, then it would be different. But a white, privileged person like Steve Vizard, these days, it may cause a lot of hurt.
Conrad, let's bring you in here. You've been very outspoken on this issue. Do you think freedom of speech can often just be racism in disguise?
Not necessarily. The reality is that, you know, when we talk about political correctness gone mad, we're not really close to it because we're still having this discussion. No one has stopped us from trying to find what the line is. What we're just trying to do is find out what that line is and ask people to consider the ramifications that people may take offence. This isn't crazy or anything like that. This is just called being considerate.
You're right. So, I mean,
Today, Junior?
There aren't that many people that claim that people shouldn't be allowed to make comments that are racist, sexist, homophobic, or what. Just that they should be held to account for making those comments.
No,
is that what you're saying?
Yeah, definitely. And people should be able to learn from those experiences as well. I'm a gay man, and so if I hear someone call me a faggot or gay in a really derogatory way, I'm going to call them out on it, and I want them to learn from it. It's not that difficult. We've all got the emotional intelligence and empathy to get to that point.
So calling them out, Mark, is not...
Conrad is trying to stop people who are not like him from doing things that they would find natural.
What, by calling him a faggot?
No. Earlier this year, he wrote in the Guardian newspaper talking about the workplace. A man looks at a woman in a particular way and then he gets an idea in his mind. This woman is reduced to a commodity of sex. So what he's basically saying is if a fellow in the workplace asks a woman out for a date, then that's sexual harassment.
Ha! Gay!
No, you're putting words in his mouth.
No, this is not what I was saying. This is in his article.
You're saying something he never actually said.
Yes, no, I'm not. He says this right here. He says he's talking about efficiency in the workplace. Then a man looks at a woman in a particular way. He gets an idea in his mind. Okay,
and then you've extrapolated that to something completely different.
And he goes on to define it as sexual harassment.
Can I just say something?
What I was talking about
yes, he
Mark.
does. So he's trying to stop people who... He must be upset at the ABC, where every second journalist is married to someone else in the workplace. So he's trying to stop people from doing what's natural in the workplace, to be just robotic people interested in efficiency and actually have an interest in the opposite sex.
Mark is completely right. If you are a man who shows that you fancy a lady who works a few levels down, then you are a sexual pervert who degrades women. But if women do the same to men, that's totally fine, not to mention gays and lesbians. According to these fruitcakes, only straight men can be sexual perverts.
No, that's not what I was saying at all, Mark. I was asking men to try and take some accountability that when they are overcrossing the line. I've got no issues with people having discussions about their personal life in the workplace. I want people to not go beyond that line that is pretty well accepted. We were talking about people like Jamie Briggs and Chris Gale there, and it was completely past what anyone would have
with someone on air, flirting with someone on air, and you find that offensive. You know why, Conrad? Because Chris Gale is not like you. Anyone who's not like you has got to play by a different set of rules in society.
You're the one who's expecting us just to assimilate and pretend we don't have these different
about this as the only female on the forum, please? As a female in a newsroom, and this is no disrespect to Mel McLaughlin, but I've spoken with a lot of my female colleagues who also say that they thought that the outrage was over the top. Not that they didn't think his behaviour was inappropriate. They all said it was inappropriate, came off sleazy, looked like an idiot, but most of them sort of went, whatever. And I think even Mel herself was sort of like, I don't want all this attention. So I do think that while it was inappropriate, he seemed sleazy, not all women in our position matched the outrage that was...
But you can understand why some people were outraged. Instead of taking her seriously as a journalist and answering her cricket-related questions, he decided to sleaze onto her in front of a national audience.
100% agree with that.
I mean, Mark, if he wanted to ask her out for a date, why wouldn't he take that offline and say, hey, listen, thanks for the interview. By the way, would you want to catch up for a drink later?
Well, that's what he said on air, but I mean, the idea that Mel McLaughlin couldn't handle herself is ridiculous. You're talking...
Yes, that was more offensive.
She wasn't a damsel in distress.
That was the more offensive bit.
She said she could handle it. Everyone takes offence on her behalf when she's not outraged herself. It's ridiculous.
I put something to you. Do you think, as a white, straight man, that that you have a different opinion about this than people who are in minority groups, who have been victims of sexism in the workplace or homophobic slurs?
Well, women are not a minority group. They're majority in society. And I talk to well-educated, professional, capable women who say that the whole cacophony of noise saying that they're all hopeless, they're damsels in distress, they need protection from this, that and the other thing, they look at it as ridiculous. Because the average Australian woman today is so capable...
Oh shit, fuck boys. The soft cock has initiated the white knight mode. Can he stump the mark?
People are saying things they're not saying. And this is how you make your argument. You say people are saying one thing, which they're not saying. You argue against that thing.
Nope. The soft cock just stumped himself.
Therefore, rubbishing those people.
We've been obviously talking about a lot of different topics here. What, as a comedian, what are the really hot topics that you feel you can't go to anymore as a comedian?
Well, I don't think there are any topics that I can't go to. The idea is to make it funny, is to make it... once people are offended, then you've lost. So basically, you can cover whatever topic, no matter how controversial, as long as you make people laugh about it. And humour can be a very powerful way of breaking through those prejudices. And if someone... I've had comments... I had a guy come up to me after a show and say, mate, I really hate Arabs, but you're okay, because you made me laugh. And that's the thing, people connect with humour because you say, well, you've observed the same thing I've observed, so you can't be... maybe not that different from me as a human being, you know?
Well, comedy's always had a very special place in that regard, hasn't it? It's kind of like our breakout room or our release valve where we can discuss things and work out where the line is.
Yeah, you definitely got more leverage and more license as a comedian.
That's because you don't expect people to take you seriously, as opposed to in the workplace where you do hope that people take you seriously.
Oh, and people ask people out for a date, Andrew. Get real. Get into the real world, mate. Over at the ABC, it's rife. And what's wrong with it? I mean, I met my wife in the workplace. And if I listen to people like Conrad, we would never have had a happy, successful 16-year marriage, 3 beautiful children. Because you'd be thinking, oh, no, if I ask her out for a date, I'm treating her like a commodity. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Hey,
I want to discuss the deal with you. Hey, sugar cakes, you want to go for a drink? That's the context, man.
No, I think we are at a point where we're trying to decide where our values are and what is acceptable, what isn't offensive, and what is. But there was an incident, for example, with Jermaine Greer, who made a statement about Caitlyn Jenner, and she, as an intellectual, said, in the true definition of a woman, she's not a woman because she can't have babies, which I thought was a reasonable comment. And then because of that comment, she wasn't allowed to speak at a university function that she was due to speak at. And that's really not a good thing. That's,
when you start putting
that's a
rules
step
in
backwards.
place to prevent people from saying things, that's political correctness.
Yeah, and there's a lot of it. There's a lot of it.
That's incorrect.
Led by
As
you
the
and
strong
Conrad.
women on this bench, I'm going to say time. Thank you all. We appreciate the discussion.
So the final scoreboard, Mark the Legend is 50 points, the Soft Cook is 0. Thanks for watching, like this video and subscribe.